morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, St. Kitts and Nevis, and welcome to Inside the News on 1FM 98.9. I'm your host for today's edition, Devon Cornelius. And let me say thank you guys so much for tuning in today. Today is Saturday, October 2nd, 2021. It's a beautiful day. I'm giving thanks for life, and I hope you are too. I hope you had a restful night. I hope you had a productive week, and I hope you were able to achieve some of the things that you wanted to get done for this week. And as I'm looking forward to next week, hoping that there are new opportunities, new things for us to do, I am hoping that you too would take advantage of that. I know things are different, yes, with the COVID 19, the rising cases, but give thanks for life. I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy that you have tuned in to be a part of today's edition of Inside the News. Today, I want to talk about a topic that has been on the minds of many people since the start of the pandemic, and there has been a lot of debate over this particular topic, a lot of sentiments, a lot of people giving their professional and unprofessional opinion on it as to what they believe is the best way forward. But today, I want to entertain the conversation with you, members of the public, and I want to get your take on it, your feedback, and if you want to share some of your stories since the start of this pandemic. We're looking at the pros and cons of a lockdown. The pros and cons of a lockdown. I think the conversation is timely because while we are not under a 24-hour lockdown, remember we have active cases that are more than 950. And in a sense, those 950 people, they I would say, in lockdown. And so, really and truly, I want to highlight this topic because, as I said, while we are not under a full nationwide 24-hour lockdown or curfew, the people that are in quarantine because they contracted COVID or they're a contact of COVID, they they're basically in lockdown. They are basically in lockdown. So I want to have this conversation with you, and I hope to get your feedback. I hope to hear from you. For those of you who are interested in being a part of today's program, you can call us at 466-0989-762-0989 and 662-0989. You can also send us a WhatsApp at 662-2204. 662-2204. Remember, we're also live on Facebook and our YouTube channel, which is Win Media SKN. You can leave us a comment there as well and give your take on today's discussion. I am looking forward to have this one with you. So, over the past few months, we have seen many countries, of course, here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we've seen the respective governments taking the decision to implement a partial or full 24-hour lockdown. And this, in some countries, is perhaps still the case. And in other countries, they have decided to done away with it. They have decided to put that on the back burner because some countries and their respective health authorities have said that the option of locking down the country for 24 hours, or a full lockdown, in other words, is not the best option. And while one may see it as, or while the 24-hour lockdown may assist in stopping or curbing or slowing the spread of the virus, the lockdown in and of itself creates a whole other problem. And so countries have decided that, well, we're not going to do this. We're going to implement other measures. But in terms of having the country on a full lockdown, this is something that we are not going to do. And there has been a lot of feedback with regards to that. Many people disagree with the action. Others support it. Others say, yes, we don't want any more lockdown because it's too much for us to handle. And other people are on the other side of the fence where they're saying there needs to be a lockdown when you have a high number of cases. Now, I have decided to do a little bit of research and to get some feedback, some professional advice from some, let me say, experts in the field. I've decided to, browse the web on credible media houses, credible organizations, and to get their take on the whole situation of a 24-hour lockdown and why it is necessary or why it is unnecessary. And later on in the program, I will be sharing a clip with you. And today we're going to begin firstly with the mental health aspect of it. Because I think too many times people just look at the financial impact of it and they forget completely about the mental health aspect of it. They're like, oh, locking down the country, you probably lose a paycheck for this week and then you're good to go again. But we're perhaps turning a blind eye to the real issue or another issue that really affects people when something like this really happens. And so today I want to shed some light on that. Really, because as I mentioned before, we have over 900 people in quarantine. And some of them have been there for quite some time. As I was mentioning yesterday, you have instances where people were told that they were going to be in quarantine for, let's say, 7 days. And 14 days later, they're still there. And so I thought it necessary to have a conversation surrounding the mental health aspect of this whole pandemic and what really people are facing during this time. I've spoken to a number of people who are in quarantine, and it's really taking a heavy toll on them, and they're stressed out. They're worried. They don't know what to do. They're just in a position where they're frustrated, and they really don't know what to do because having to be under quarantine or under, let me say, lockdown, in other words, it's frustrating. One can only imagine how frustrating that could be. And that is why I was saying yesterday, when you see people know that they're contacts of COVID, they run away from being called, they run away from the call rather, to go into quarantine. And so today I want to look at the health aspect. I want to later on as well get your feedback on it and what you think can be done to better assist our people. Of course, I'll be taking your calls to hear from you what you think should be done and how you think our people can cope during this point in time. It is 15 minutes past the hour, and we'll take a break to give a shout out to the sponsors for this edition of Inside the News. And when we come back, we're going to continue the conversation. We'll take this short break, and we will be right back. Let's take this break.
Insurance Company Limited. We care about your investment. Guarantee you peace of mind. The best team in the business. Guarantee you peace of mind. No other company will Insurance Company Limited, where you get more coverage for less.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
Welcome back to Inside the News on 1FM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. It's a beautiful Saturday. Today is the second day of October 2021. And we're back with Inside the News. So for those of you who are just tuning in, I want to entertain a conversation on the pros and cons of a lockdown, why it is necessary, why it is unnecessary. And, you know, some people have supported it and others have not. Right now, where we're experiencing a surge in cases, or perhaps I should not call it a surge because it's already there, but perhaps a rapid increase. Let me just say a rapid increase in cases. I have heard a few people say that there is a need for a lockdown, and I disagree. So I'll give my take on the situation, and then I will play this clip for you. Now, there are a number of reasons as to why I do not support a 24-hour lockdown and why I am against it. Of course, I don't think it is entirely a bad thing, as in some cases it has worked, but I don't think the response to the pandemic going forward, especially in the context of, you know, having COVID-19 vaccines, I don't think the response to curbing or stopping the spread or entirely the COVID-19 pandemic should be locking down the country. I think that is backward. I think you're going back in time, and I think it totally defeats the purpose of the COVID-19 vaccines and other measures that have been put in place. We saw in the first instance, or in the beginning of this pandemic, where, of course, at that time, we had no access to vaccines, and the vaccines essentially weren't available. They weren't ready. And so countries took the decision to lock down. They took the decisions to implement tight and stringent measures to curb the spread of the virus, because the fear for the health officials was that if this virus gets to spread to a population that is not protected, then that will result in mass casualty. And so that is why that decision was taken to have 24-hour lockdowns to essentially slow the spread. As you know, with COVID-19, it is a virus that moves when we move. And so as long as we're moving, as long as we're socializing, the COVID will always spread. Now that there are vaccines, and the vaccines have proven to be safe and effective, the vaccines have proven to be one of the best tools in the fight against the pandemic. Of course, not throwing out the pharmaceutical measures, because I think what people are forgetting is that with these vaccines, we still have to adhere to the pharmaceutical measures, as simple as wearing a face mask and washing your hands and trying to avoid large crowds, especially if you know you're not in a position to stand up against COVID-19. And so what we have seen is that we're in a situation where now countries have said, okay, now that we have vaccines, we're not going to lock down. What I think is unnecessary is that, or why it creates more of a problem. As I said, yes, you curb the spread. But I'm thinking about the many people who are or have not been working prior to COVID-19, the many people that have not worked since the pandemic started, the many people that are suffering from mental illness, depression, you name it. Now, some of us want to act as if the mental health problem only came about during COVID-19. But prior to COVID-19, there were so many people that were suffering from mental health illness or mental illness. And with the COVID-19, that has been a significant burden added to these people. And so whilst before the COVID-19 pandemic, they were really, trying and getting help, professional help, now that there is COVID, there is a lot more for them to carry. There is a lot more for them to carry. And so I'm taking into context the many people that are suffering from mental illness, a lot of young people in particular suffering from mental illness. And sometimes we look at the whole issue of people being mentally ill as a joke. Sometimes we would joke about it and say, oh, you're looking at tension. Sometimes we would hear people say they are suffering from depression or they're not in the right state of mind. And as Caribbean people, we never really take them serious until something bad happens. I just want to stick here quickly. If you have a friend and they're telling you that they're depressed and they are not doing well mentally, check up on them or help them to get some professional help. And so what COVID has done, or the lockdowns have done, is that for people who were holding on by just a thread to their job, the lockdowns have destroyed that completely. And so when COVID came, yes, businesses, they were impacted negatively. But then when the lockdowns were added, oh my, businesses were forced to lay off people, particularly small businesses and those businesses that don't really have a deep, purse to pay and sustain the human resource of the company. And so you saw a situation where people were home with bills, and the bills kept piling up. The children kept coming and saying, Mommy and Daddy, I'm hungry. The bills kept coming in. Your monthly obligations were still there. So while the world really stopped and things stopped moving physically, the day-to-day operations never really stopped. In other words, you still had your monthly obligations. You still had a number of things to do as a person. And so what we saw is that people were home and people had that difficult position, were in a difficult position whether they were going to take that money or use it to pay the bills, to keep the lights on, or to keep the house or the car, or they were going to take the money to buy food. Then I'm pretty sure you had people who were just in such a bad position that really and truly they were not in a position to do any of the above. They had nothing left. And so some decided to take their own life. Some decided to just, end it all and say, man, to hell with this. I can't do it anymore. And so one may say, oh, we don't have mental health problems here in the Caribbean. That is a lie. And I think the reason why we have such an attitude is because we don't really pay attention to it. Now, you may be a healthy person. You may be a healthy person in terms of your mental health. You may be fine. You have the perfect job. COVID has not affected you. But let's just stop and think for a moment. Let us just stop and imagine for a moment. You have to go into a 24-hour lockdown. You have to go into a quarantine. And as I had mentioned yesterday, you're in the quarantine for 7 days, and 14 days later, you're still there. You can't work. You're not making any money. Things have changed dramatically for you. I believe that will have an effect on your mental health. And as we would say, that would drive you crazy. Because as people, we are accustomed to being social. We are accustomed to moving about, socializing with our friends and our families. And so to just say, stop, move, stay home, don't do anything, that will have a toll on your mental health. And today I want to entertain this conversation, and we're going to play this clip. This clip complements the Al Jazeera, and we're going to hear from this medical expert. Not medical expert, sorry, this expert in the field of mental health, and we're going to get their professional take or overview of the whole situation of people's mental health being affected by COVID-19 and COVID-19 lockdowns. Let's have this clip played.
In some parts of the world, lockdowns have stretched on for weeks, even months. There's talk of more down the road, and in countries where restrictions are being lifted, we're still keeping our distance and we're not socializing the way we used to. The consensus is all of that is having an effect on us and our mental health. You've probably heard that human beings are considered social animals. Well, that's based on science.
Humans are one of the most vulnerable species at birth and need to rely on others for survival. Our brains have adapted to having others as our baseline. And so when this lack of proximity to trusted others is absent, then it puts us in a heightened state of alert.
Essentially, our brains are hardwired to feel safe knowing we can turn to others if we need to. So whenever we feel lonely, the fight or flight area in our brain releases stress hormones, like adrenaline, into our nervous system. And if we stay in that state of alert for a long time, it starts having a physical effect on our body, like on our digestive and immune systems. The risk of heart attack, stroke, and type 2 diabetes can also go up. Some studies show that loneliness can even shorten your life.
What we found was that loneliness was associated with a 26% increase risk for earlier death, social isolation at 29%, and living alone a 32%.
But it's not just isolation that's stressing out our brains and bodies. It's everything.
Now, the number of coronavirus cases globally has crossed 4 million.
All anyone talks about is the pandemic. We're overwhelmed by constant news updates, some of them true and some of them false. And that information overload can cause anxiety.
For some of us, I think we have this kind of belief that we can try to control this anxiety by excessively worrying about that, consuming more and more information, and that might actually feed into the anxiety.
But most things seem to be out of our control, and that uncertainty is wearing people down.
Fear and anxiety, stress, these are all incredibly normal responses to this situation. there are a lot of unknowns.
That anxiety is a natural reaction to something that is uncertain anyway, and this pandemic is the most uncertain time that any of us have lived through.
Maybe you're having trouble sleeping, or you just feel a bit weird, almost like it's Groundhog Day.
I'm reliving the same day over and over.
You might be fine one day and feel totally over it the next. A lot depends on your experience of this pandemic. You might be dealing with trauma after recovering from the virus. Maybe you've lost someone. Maybe you've lost your job. Some people were struggling to put food on the table even before the lockdown. Or maybe you've had to upend your work or school routine. There's already evidence that young adults and children are feeling it.
An Oxford University study found that 1 in 5 children are now afraid to leave their homes.
And then there are those with pre-existing mental health issues, like people with diagnosed depression who might feel particularly vulnerable right now. It's also elderly people terrified about contracting the virus. And it's healthcare workers dealing with the sick and being afraid of getting sick themselves.
Honestly, guys, it felt like I was working in a war zone.
For me to say I don't feel fear going into a room or anxiety, that my heart doesn't start pounding and my stomach doesn't churn is a lie.
Mental health experts say an entire generation of medical workers will likely suffer prolonged psychological effects from working through this pandemic.
It's those prolonged effects that mental health specialists are worried about, because we just don't know when we'll see the back of this pandemic. Yes, some countries are starting to lift the lockdowns, but life isn't exactly going back to normal. And there's no guarantee that the number of cases won't spike again.
The virus is going to stay for a while, it's going to stay for a few years. Even if after we get the vaccine will not eradicate the virus. The vaccine will decrease the transmission rate. This virus basically can go away, but it goes back like seasonal flu.
That means that whatever we're feeling now could last a while. After the SARS epidemic in 2003, people still showed what's called avoidance behavior. A study found that about 1/5 of people were avoiding public spaces weeks later. 1/4 avoided crowded and enclosed places, and just over half still avoided people who coughed or sneezed.
I do worry that there will be continued lingering fear around being close to others.
There are also concerns about other ways people might respond. A report in the Lancet Medical Journal says there are suggestions that the number of deaths by suicide will rise. In Australia, for instance, calls to this helpline have gone up by 40% since the pandemic began. But there's not a lot of data yet linking suicide rates to COVID-19. Specialists we've spoken to say that, first of all, people who decide to take their own life do it for several reasons, not just one. That an increase in calls to support lines doesn't necessarily indicate an increase in suicidal actions, and that more people reaching out might actually be a good thing. In fact, some researchers say people who've already sought mental health treatment are in a better position to cope.
They're actually better prepared for this isolation and pandemic because of coping mechanisms and resilience measures that they've learned in the past already.
There's actually a lot of research being done to find out what positive effects might come from this pandemic.
The sense of solidarity, the sense of togetherness that may come from this. There may be some comfort in knowing that others are experiencing something similar. There may be the potential positive effects of reducing stigma around this, so greater willingness to talk about it.
Seeing mental health and emotional well-being as a natural part of all of our lives. So anything that's more sort of able to break the stigma is good from our side.
So here are a few things we can do to keep our mental health in check.
Really good to find ways to kind of have little project tasks or little ways to achieve something throughout the day.
Pick up a phone and check in on family members, friends, neighbors.
The best thing that you can do is inform yourself with legitimate sources. The easiest way to do that is to look to the World Health Organization. Facts minimize fear.
Whatever you're feeling, you're definitely not the only one. We're all affected by it. And if you're really struggling, it's okay to ask for help. The World Health Organization has an online campaign called Healthy at Home that has lots of advice. Depending on where you live, you can also get help online or over the phone. And if you're watching on YouTube, we'll leave some links below this video. See you next week.
TDC Automotive is paying for you. Deposit? We're paying. 3-month installments? We're paying. Pay nothing for 3 months because we are paying. Take a moment, catch your breath, and roll out with ease. Save over $20,000 off your new Toyota Hiace because TDC Automotive is paying. Get your Toyota Hiace today. TDC Automotive, #1 for a reason. Terms and conditions apply.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects or sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
Welcome back to Inside the News on WinFM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. For those of you who are just tuning in, thank you guys so much for joining today's edition of Inside the News. I'm your host, Devon Cornelius. Again, the phone lines are open and we are taking your calls to get your opinion on this whole, the whole lockdown, the pros and cons of a lockdown and the mental health aspect of it. Thank you guys so much for joining. It's just 38 minutes past the hour. Remember, we are breaking at 12 for the headline news and we'll come back thereafter. For the second hour of the program, we're going to look at the economic aspect of it and the burden it has caused on global economies, particularly small island developing states. But we're going to take a stroll down memory lane, and we're going to look at the global financial crisis and other crises that affected us in the past financially. And we're going to have a clip where all of this will be explained, complements The Economist. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. The phone lines are open and we are taking your calls right here on Inside the News on WinFM 98.9. As I was listening to the clip, what stood out to me was when it was mentioned that, you know, you're in lockdown, you're in quarantine, you want to get your news about COVID, you want to know what's happening with COVID. Try to stay tuned to credible sources. I know we have social media, and I think social media has played a role. I don't know what role it has played, but it has played a significant role. No. It has played a role in, okay, let me pause quickly to take our first call. Caller, good morning. You are on Inside the News.
Hello.
Hello, good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Oh, your voice is very soft. Good morning, Devon. How are you today?
I'm doing good, thanks.
Oh, your voice is very, very low. I really enjoy listening to that last video. What is the name of it?
Let me go back quickly to check that, and I'll get it to you.
Well, while I talk
right
to you,
now.
because I would like to hear it again. You know, it is very, very interesting. I, for one, the lockdown has affected me in a certain kind of a way. It has disrupted my life. You know, before the lockdown, I used to go down to the McKnight Community Center every morning, Monday to Thursday. Sometimes for 8, I catch the bus, 8:30, 9 o'clock. And sometimes I get home for 3, 4, 5, 6. And when I'm down there, I am in contact with a lot of people. You know, we have conversations, we do activities, and I am blind. So, you know, it compounds the isolation compounds the matter when you can't see. You follow? So
Yeah,
you
listen to
you.
you.
Can't see, the other people can't see. There is constant interaction. And but for me now, I love the radio, and I must compliment the radio and thank you and all the radio hosts, because the radio give me a sense of connection. When I put on the radio, the talk shows especially, I gain a sense of connection to you and to the other listeners, those who call in. I know some of them by their voices, you know, and it allows me to exercise my brain, because I can't imagine what it would have been like just sitting down here not doing anything, nothing substantial to think about, to talk about.
That's
you know?
true.
Yeah, I mean, but I do a lot of work on my laptop. I decided, look, since I am here, talk shows last maybe an hour, 2 hours, I have the whole day. So I do work on my laptop, and I do listen to videos on my phone. You know, so I can imagine for people who can't think of anything to do, sitting down there all day, twiddling their fingers. It has got to be. I mean, we have had maybe one or two of one. Actually, I know one for sure of our members who ended up at the psychiatric ward and then to the garden home. You know, she couldn't understand why she couldn't get down to the center. She couldn't understand what this corona thing was all about.
Wow.
One-on-one, you know, those who have certain kind of mental, if you want to call it. It has caused a lot of havoc in some of their lives. The different able ones you're talking about may have a little mental disability. Throwing them off track. They're accustomed for the bus to pick them up, you know, to go to the Cotton Thomas, go to Addis Place, come down to the McKnight Center. And all of a sudden they can't go, and then they may say, all right, in their mind, tomorrow I will go. They can't find a tomorrow. They can't find a tomorrow. Even me sometimes I say, boy, when this thing is done, so we can get back together.
Right.
And, you know, even talking on the phone, it helps, you know. I am not usually a phone person. I don't really call people. But if people call me, you know, it is this sense of connection. That is why I would suggest to people, try and call somebody. My sister, Carol Williams, she calls me every morning. Sometimes she calls me during the day. See, how you doing? Or I might call my brother, I might call my pastor. Pastor George, how you doing? You know, just to get some connection. because we were never meant to be alone. Life was not designed that way. Now, the other day when they had the CPL, I heard certain comments which I think people don't really understand mental issues. You see that CPL? It was a great relief, an emotional release for the country, you know. There was something to look forward to, even if it didn't like cricket. Even I was listening before, you know, somebody playing and Barbados playing, Guyana or whatever.
You know, I'll give you a little joke, and I'll be honest with you, and some people might be like, what? But I am, to be honest, I am not a cricket fan 100%. I watch cricket, but I'm not a cricket fan. But I went to the games, and I had a good time. And when Patriots won, I was there jumping and making noise, saying, yeah, when they, you know, hit a couple of sixes, I felt good. So it was, I agree with you, a relief.
It was a relief. Look, I can't see them. When you hear the knock-a-six and you hear the shout in the stadium, I mean, you feel like shouting too. You know? The excitement, people don't think. You know how many of them went home, they felt better? All the lockdown, you feel like you went to jail and you come out. So the whole country, I mean, all across the people were listening. They lock into their homes. So it was an emotional release. When you put on the radio and you hear people singing and whatever, and you participate. That's why I encourage people, put on the radio, put on the television, use your phone. Because I can tell you, well, we're not the kind of kill ourselves people, you know, certain ethnic groups. But if you listen to people on the radio, they sound angry. They have a calling show. You swear somebody hit them. That is pent-up anger, pent-up tension. You know, and people who are in quarantine and can't get out. They feel like they're in jail. And it's worse if you're not accustomed to keep your feet in your own yard.
Right. Well, Carla, thank you. You know? Yeah, thank you so much for your contribution.
Right,
we'll take some more calls here on Inside the News. It is 47 minutes past the hour of 11, and we're winding down. You know, we'll take that break at 12 for the headline news, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Yes, I agree with you, Carla. I think many people, and I'm glad that you brought up, made that connection with the CPL. As you know, prior to the CPL, you know, nothing much was really happening, and so people really wanted, particularly those people who, you know, like to go to these kind of events, like FET events, not saying that was a FET event, but similar events. And so they were really looking forward to just being, quote unquote, outside, you know, outside, having a good time with family and friends. And I think for the most part, the hosting of the CPL games, it was a relief for some, whether you were able to attend the games or whether you were at home watching from your laptop or your phone, or perhaps if you were listening in. But I'm glad that you were able to make that connection there. But you know, some things that were mentioned, I agree, because we tend to forget about people. If you were listening to the clip, it said sometimes we have to check up on each other. And so, you know, you have a neighbor who's accustomed to going to a particular area every day to do whatever. But since the pandemic, they have not been able to do so. And so, you know, you call them and you say, hey, what's going on? Is everything is all right with you? How have you been? What about the family? You know, and you just do a general check-up on them. And I think this is what we have lost points in terms of the pandemic. I know before we had all these cases, we used to beat our chest and say that we are the best managed country. and that we're doing well with COVID. But were we? Because while we were able to keep cases really low, and while we were able to enjoy some sense of normalcy in the context of the COVID cases, people were still being affected mentally by the pandemic, job loss, or whatever the situation may be. And so, of course, they turn to different things. Some people turn to the use of drugs, unhealthy eating, you name it. Some people turn to a lot of things just to cope with this added stress and this added burden to their shoulders, and I think sometimes we turn a blind eye to it. I mean, I gotta say kudos to the department, the Ministry of Health, or the mental health unit and the counseling department. I think they have been doing a very good job in trying to reach out to people. I would always hear them make the plea, particularly to parents, to let their teenagers come and visit the counseling department. The counselors are always available, and they would want to help you during this difficult time. They would want to, sometimes all we need is to have a conversation with a friend. It could always be a stranger. It could be a stranger. All sometimes you need is a little conversation to really keep you going, so that guys, you're winding down, and we're heading to the 12 o'clock hour pretty soon. We are going to take a break. Right now, let's say thank you to the sponsors for this program. When we come back, we're going to wrap up for the headline news. Let's give a shout out to the sponsors, and when we come back, we'll continue Inside the News on WinFM 98.9. I'm your host, Devon Cornelius.
Shopping with TDC just got much easier. Here's how. Log on to shoptdcgroup.com. Shop at your convenience at any time, from anywhere, with your smartphone, tablet, or computer. With our safe and secure payment checkout, you choose the option to pick up in-store or have your goods delivered right to your door. It's that easy. Shop tdcgroup.com, your one-stop online store.
Shop anywhere, shop anytime, same quality you love. Now online. Shop
www.shoptdcgroup.com.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go.
We have a caller on the line. Welcome back to Inside the News. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. Thank you for that tape you played this morning. I've heard several aspects of that on BBC. But I need to draw to the attention of Cable and Wireless that they need to improve the service on landline to help curb the state of, we call it, mental health.
Mm-hmm.
You make a complaint that your telephone landline not working, and they take it for granted. I believe they want to phase out this landline and want everybody to use cell. And it's not possible.
Mm-hmm.
They frustrate you with the landline. And with landline, you can communicate better with other people.
Right.
I use it to communicate with others. I like to use the telephone and call friends and people who ask me to call them and so on. Another thing I realized that is causing some mental health is that the spiritual food. People are able to go to church or the social group like the Women's League and the other like Bible study and so. And for those who are keeping it, they're keeping it on Zoom and other things, and some of us are not able to connect. So we are lost. So I believe they have those who are using the Zoom and the WhatsApp and whatnot must take in consideration people outside here who don't have that capacity to join or to follow on. But I thank you for your services, I thank you for your services because when you started first, I was reluctant to listen to you. But now I realize that you're really feeding the populace and the world at large. So continue to make your inquiries and bring what you know to the forefront. Thank you.
And thank you, Carter, so much for your contribution to this program. And again, thank you so much for your kind words of encouragement. I'm glad that you brought that out in terms of, the spiritual food and many people not being able to go to church and, visit their social groups and social clubs. As there were some people that went to church every Sunday or Saturday religiously. Every Saturday and Sunday, they were always in church. Every Friday night, they were always at the church with a social group or, doing something to keep their mind at ease and to really stay occupied. And they were really busy with family and friends. Since the pandemic started and then added with all of these 24-hour lockdowns and 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. curfews, everything really transitioned to the online space, and that wasn't really convenient for some people. As most naturally, we prefer to meet face to face, and if I may be honest, it's never really the same experience when you're doing it on Zoom. I mean, doing church on Zoom versus being there in person is a completely different experience, and so it was really hard for people to adapt to that, let me say, a drastic change. Some have, others have not. But that is the harsh reality. Guys, we are just about a minute away from the headline news. We'll take the break to say thank you. We'll take a break, for the headline news, and we'll come back after. And for the second hour, we're going to look at the economic impact of COVID-19 and how governments as a whole, how the global economy has been responding to this pandemic, and what are some of the measures that we can take to reposition the economy so that we can get back to pre-COVID-19 levels, and so that there can be good fiscal strength for our governments. I think for the most part, governments are really trying. They're bringing in experts to find new ways to make money to sustain the public's purse, but it's really hard. And as I said, I tip my hat to whoever is in any government right now, and I know that they are in a difficult position. So when we come back for the second hour, we're gonna look at that aspect. Thank you guys so much for the calls. Thank you so much for the participation. Thank you so much for listening. We're gonna pause for the headline news, and when we come back, we'll continue this conversation. For those of you who tuned in late this morning, we focused on the topic at large is the pros and cons of a 24-hour lockdown. But for the first hour this morning, we looked at the mental health aspect of it and how COVID-19 lockdowns have affected people's mental health. For this afternoon, after the headline news, we are going to take a look at the economic or financial impact of the COVID-19, but in particular, the lockdowns. We'll take this break and we'll be right back.
You found the sound. 98.9. Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Caribbean.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib. It's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International. By land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
We are faced with tough decisions every day, but choosing the right home or motor insurance shouldn't be one. You need fast claim settlement from a company that's been rooted for over 31 years. And don't forget the A Excellent rating by AM Best. Make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Reliable insurance that you can count on. Get a quote today for your home, motor, contents, and liability insurance needs, and make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance. Tomorrow secured. Local agents, Dalil Walwyn & Co. Limited. Telephone 465-2631 or 469-5303 for the Nevis office.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
With the Win Headline News, I am Kevon Brown.
And I am Devon Cornelius.
Making the headlines, St. Kitts Nevis tour operator talks COVID impact and CPL.
Police charged 2 for sexual offences. Climate change and health in the Caribbean to be focus of regional conference on Tuesday.
Over $2 million worth of drugs destroyed in Antigua and Barbuda. Internationally, hundreds of students have filled the streets of Milan in push for action on climate change. Global leaders are meeting in the city to hammer out plans ahead of a United Nations Environmental Summit next month in Glasgow. Now, the details. Time and time again, we have heard of the struggles of stakeholders within the tourism industry globally. Even with the rollout of several vaccines and the now universal non-pharmaceutical means to protect oneself, the virus continues to spread and mutate, and in some countries, tourism continues to take hits. One subsection of the tourism industry that has been hit hard is the taxi drivers and tour operators. Wynn had the chance to speak with Ian Lion King Nisbet, a tour operator and owner of Sugarland Tours St. Kitts, about the impact the pandemic had on his business. This is what he had to say.
Well, to be honest, it affects me a lot. I am one of those taxi drivers who have lost their vehicle from Oxford to the offset of COVID, which set me back somewhat, way back, because I can't operate like I used to. And no fault of mine, but business places, they still need the money, so we were asked to bring in our vehicles, a few of us, a few other taxi drivers, not only myself, but a few other taxi drivers. We lost our possession, which is our hub. We call it our hub that we work with.
During the invited comment, he reported from his personal experience that the public's preconceived notion concerning the financial security of taxi drivers is misconstrued. He explained that the seasonality of tourism and general overhead costs make it difficult for taxi drivers and tour operators to be fiscally stable in times of crisis.
People look at us and say, oh, three ships in and so, but people don't look at the overhead of a taxi driver in terms of the payment. For example, my payment a month time used to be almost $2,000. It was like $1,960. That have nothing to do with gas. That have nothing to do with insurance. So even sometimes a person saves $10,000, $12,000, $13,000 after the season. When there's only one boat coming in at a week or two boats coming at a week, and sometimes even in a one or two boat, you as a taxi driver to get a job, you still have to tap into that resources that you save. So people don't look at taxi and say, what do we do with the money? We do this. But people don't understand the overhead. Sometimes a month time, just the vehicle alone used to cost me over $3,500 between the payment and gas. So, people they just be on the outside speculating, but they have to be on the inside and see how it is for a taxi driver / tour operator.
How has he been surviving?
I do a little odds and ends because I'm actually into food and beverage. I do a little cooking from home sometimes. Sometimes the dance won't pay for the lights, but you can't just stop there and be sympathetic all the time. You have to get up and go again. You got to dust off and keep going. It's going to take a while before taxing to come back fully. So, in what I would say, it's going to take a lot of taxi men and women to be online to really make a comeback, because I think this post-COVID now, a lot of people is going to be booking tours online in terms of for safety and recommendation and all that. I think it's going to be a different route now in terms of people being more precautious in terms of they want to know that they're safe, the person is reliable, and that kind of stuff.
Recently, it was reported by the Minister of Sport, John L. Powell, that some 500 people from St. Kitts and Nevis gained from over EC $2 million in the first 2 weeks of the Caribbean Premier League T20 tournament that was held on St. Kitts. Nisbet was one of those 500 who benefited. He explained that the benefit to taxi operators was tremendous, considering all tournament games were held in St. Kitts compared to pre-COVID, where the games were spread out.
A lot more taxi men and women benefited from CPL this year than over the previous years. But because over the previous years, we only used to have sometimes 6 matches, then sometimes the semi-final and the final. So sometimes we got 6, maybe 8, 10 matches. But to see all 33 matches was held in St. Kitts this year, it was really good for a lot of tour operators who actually benefited from CPL this year.
The full brevity of the benefits of CPL to the Federation will be released at a later date. However, the entrepreneurs and all those who were able to take part in CPL, whether directly or indirectly, would report that they benefited considering the hit our economy took from the pandemic. At the end of the interview with Wynn, the Lion King urged the general public to reconsider any preconceived notion they have of taxi drivers and tour operators, and ended by saying,
a real taxi driver is an ambassador to the country. because they promote the country.
On September 28, 2021, a man from District B was charged for the offense of rape. The offense was committed on July 1st, and he has been remanded to Her Majesty's Prison. On September 29th, a man from District A was charged for the offense of indecent assault. The offense was committed on April 18, 2021. He is currently in police custody. A virtual conference on climate change and health in small island developing states with a focus on the Caribbean will be held from October 5th to 8th, 2021. The conference will address the science of climate change and health in the Caribbean, identifying knowledge gaps, posing solutions, and promoting resource sharing, networking, and empowerment. CARICOM Secretary General Dr. Carla Barnett will be among representatives of regional and international organizations addressing the event. It is being held under the theme European Union Caribbean Forum, Strengthening Climate Resilient Health Systems Project in the Caribbean, which is being coordinated by the Pan-American Health Organization PAHO in accordance with One Health approach and with the Caribbean Cooperation in Health Phase 4 framework. The project includes activities implemented by PAHO as well as the other implementing partners that consists of CARICOM institutions, including the Caribbean Public Health Agency, the Caribbean Community Climate Change Center, the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology, the University of the West Indies, and the CARICOM Secretariat. Additionally, several other United Nations agencies, universities, and civil society will be supporting this project.
In regional news, over $2 million worth of drugs destroyed in Antigua and Barbuda. ABS Antigua has more.
Just a little over $2 million worth of drugs was destroyed today by the Royal Police Force of Antigua and Barbuda.
Well, what we have been witnessing here this morning is the destruction of just a little over $2 million worth of controlled drugs. This in itself comprised of cannabis, a small portion of cocaine, and also hashish.
Frankie Thomas provides a further breakdown of the type of drugs destroyed.
We have destroyed here this morning 505.5 pounds of cannabis, which carries an estimated street value of $2,200,000. We also had some hashish, which so far has weighed 9.3 grams, and that in itself carries a street value of $93. And also cocaine, which is 342 grams worth of cocaine, and that in itself carries a street value of $11,970.
Chief Magistrate John Walsh presided over the exercise, while other court officials witnessed the activity.
A large amount of cannabis that came from seizures at the main ports of entry, that is the VC Bird International Airport cargo shed, and also the Deepwater Harbor. We also had some seizures made at the General Post Office. There are some of these substances which came from matters that are disposed of in the magistrate court as well.
It encourages the general public to come forward with any information.
For us to be successful, it is a collaborative, cohesive effort from all the law enforcement agencies working together to ensure that we stay on top of things. And so I must also commend the efforts of the Antigua and Barbuda Defense Force. And I just ask the general public to at least continue to pass on information when they see anything suspicious.
This is the first occasion of burning this year.
We now bring you these international reports.
Enough talk. It's time for action. That was the clear message climate activist Greta Thunberg and thousands of other student protesters had for world leaders. They're all gathering in Milan for what the United Nations calls its pre-COP26 summit, held ahead of the main climate conference in Scotland in November.
Ministers from all over the world have gathered here to discuss the climate crisis, and they are pretending that they have solutions to the climate crisis and that they are taking sufficient action. but we see through their lies and we see through their blah blah blah, and we are tired of it.
Students in their thousands demonstrating as part of the Fridays for Future global protest movement that Thunberg helped launch. This Friday, with the pre-COP meetings taking place in the city, the crowd was larger than usual.
Thousands of students skipped school on Friday in Milan to fill the streets and show their anger, frustration, and impatience. They want a solution to the climate problem, and they want it now.
We want the government to listen to us, and we want them to know that we are here, and we won't go away until they listen. We want the climate to change now because our future doesn't wait for us.
It's really important for us because alone we can't do anything basically, but we're all together today. And we can do everything if we really want to. And so we came here standing for the things that we really care for.
It's important to give pressure to the authorities, to let the message be heard.
Use this one and then...
This happened a day after a Youth for Climate conference in Milan, where hundreds of young activists from around the world proposed strategies to tackle the climate crisis. Coming out of the conference, many delegates expressed cautious optimism that leaders would follow through on promises to act swiftly and boldly. The mood, though, on the street is different. Many young activists say trust between them and world leaders is broken, and it likely won't be rebuilt until a major climate solution plan is put in place, and soon. Adam Rainey, Al Jazeera, Milan.
New Zealand reported 27 new cases of the highly infectious Delta coronavirus variant in Auckland on Saturday as protesters took to the streets to rally against an almost 2-month lockdown in the country's biggest city. Auckland is home to 1.7 million residents. They're expecting a government decision on Monday about whether the city will remain sealed off from the rest of New Zealand. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern enforced what was meant to be a short and sharp nationwide lockdown in mid-August in response to the Auckland outbreak. But while the rest of the country has largely returned to normal life, the North Island city has remained in lockdown for about 7 weeks. Here are some of the protesters.
Our freedom to choose our choice is being taken from it. That's not acceptable. That's right. That's wrong.
I don't want to live in a country that's subverted by fear, and that's what appears to be happening.
I'm not going to go and jeopardise my health. I don't care what anyone thinks about vaccines. If you want to go get it. But don't force me.
Around 1,000 people rallied in the city demanding freedom from lockdown, according to local media. The protest was organised by Destiny Church, a Pentecostal fundamentalist Christian movement. Brian Tamiki is the group's leader.
Like a lot of Kiwis right now, I just feel that it's gone too far with the lockdowns and the levels, and constantly being put into these positions means that our jobs, our livelihoods, our businesses, and also the mental health of people is becoming quite evident now that it's really a breaking point.
New Zealand was among a handful of countries to bring COVID-19 cases down to 0 last year and largely stayed virus-free until the latest outbreak in August. But difficulties in quashing the Delta variant have put Ardern's elimination strategy in question.
Today there are 33 new...
Ardern has said her strategy was never to have 0 cases, but to aggressively stamp out the virus. She has said strict lockdowns can end if 90% of the eligible population is fully vaccinated. The number currently stands at 46%.
You were listening to the WinFM Headline News on 98.9. Our top stories were St. Kitts Nevis tour operator talks COVID impact and CPL.
Police charged 2 for sexual offences. Climate change and health in the Caribbean to be focus of regional conference on Tuesday.
Over $2 million worth of drugs destroyed in Antigua and Barbuda. Internationally, hundreds of students have filled the streets of Milan in push for action on climate change. Global leaders are meeting in the city to hammer out plans ahead of a United Nations Environmental Summit next month in Glasgow. Thank you for listening.
That was the 1FM Headline News. The Headline News was brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, KDP Enterprises, The Grange, and Carib Brewery.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
We are faced with tough decisions every day, but choosing the right home or motor insurance shouldn't be one. You need fast claim settlement from a company that's been rooted for over 31 years. And don't forget the A Excellent rating by AM Best. Make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Reliable insurance that you can count on. Get a quote today for your home, motor, contents, and liability insurance needs, and make the intelligent choice. Caribbean Alliance. Tomorrow secured. Local agents, Dalil Walwyn & Co. Limited. Telephone 465-2631 or 469-5303 for the Nevis office.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness, it's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoyed the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackeson. All hail the king. Please drink responsibly.
Found the South 98.9. People make the world go round.
secure your investment, you need one who'll do you just. TDC Insurance, you're the one that you can trust. TDC Insurance, you're always safe with us.
TDC Insurance is your go-to insurance company for all your insurance needs. We take pride in offering you the best solutions and ensuring our customers are fully satisfied. TDC Insurance, we take good care of you, guaranteeing you peace of mind. You're always safe with us.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
Welcome back to Inside the News on WinFM 98.9. I'm your host, Devon Cornelius. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's just 26 minutes past the hour of 12, and we are continuing our discussion here on Inside the News. For those of you who are interested in calling into the program, you can do so at 466-0989, 762-0989, and 662-0989. Quickly, let me share with you the overseas numbers. And so if you are residing in the UK, you can call us at 033-344-0065. If you are residing in the USA, you can call us at 718-285-6984. And if you are residing in Canada, you can call us at 305-921-4619. This is WinFM 98.9, and I'm your host for today's edition of Inside the News, Devon Cornelius. For those of you who are just tuning in, we had a conversation on the mental aspect of COVID-19 lockdowns. So the general topic is the pros and